When you hear return on life, Jennifer, what do you think when you see somebody saying, "Hey, I'm getting return on life"? What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it means that they are living life to the fullest.
I used to chase the ROI all the time, return on investment. And over the course of time, that has evolved into what I call return on life.
Welcome to the Return on Life podcast. This is Randy Dyck, and I have an amazing guest today. But let's start out with why do we have return on life? It's not about the ROI, return on investment, but more about the return on life. And today's guest just oozes return on life. You're going to be so impressed with everything that Jennifer has to say today. Today, we've got Jennifer Jones, a top producer, a big team leader, #4 in the nation. Get that, #4 in the nation with production. And I just think so much of Jennifer. We've gotten to know each other really well, and I consider just one of my closest friends in real estate and in life, And so I'm really, really honored to have Jennifer here. Welcome here, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me, Randy. I'm always excited to spend time with you, and this is just a
Mm,
real pleasure. I think
right
back
on.
to even a couple months ago where we were both speaking over in South Africa in Cape Town, what an incredible experience that was, and then ending up on this magical safari together. It was just absolutely, we are blessed. We are truly blessed.
Yeah, that was a great, great trip. And just so many great nuggets were shared. You shared, I shared, and so many other great speakers at that Build conference in South Africa, Cape Town. And what a beautiful place that was.
It absolutely was. And we certainly learned a lot. I think like a lot of life lessons, even on that trip,
Mm.
just through the examples of nature on the safari. That was really, really just life changing. So
Yeah, so true.
excited to
Yeah, the
share it.
circle of life, the circle of life was alive and evident every day we were there on the safari. Anyways, it sure was evident there. When you hear return on life, Jennifer, what do you think when you see somebody saying, "Hey, I'm getting return on life"? What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it means that they are living life to the fullest, right? And that means in absolutely every way. So they're not just, in that grind to earn money or just focused on financial well-being as the end result. It becomes being well balanced in all areas. So, having abundance, but for me and for you as well, I believe it becomes more about being able to give back to others and serve other people and being well in your health, so taking care of yourself, um, living your dreams, like really getting out there and living with no fear, right? So
Mhm.
it's like no fear and concern over judgment, what anyone's going to think of what you're doing. you know um, I think we all have to kind of be a bit crazy to truly be authentic and put ourselves out there, and that's kind of what return on life is for me. It's like that balance of everything you pour in to other people comes back to you a hundredfold. How you pour into your health and your wealth, that also comes back to you a hundredfold. So yeah, just enjoying,
I
right?
love that. I love that answer. You know, what you shared is so evident in our personal lives, in our daily lives, but also in the game of real estate and how we can actually help others see that through the work that we do. And I'm sure that you've had many experiences where you've brought great value to others. And it's not just about helping them sell their home or helping them buy a property, it's about just life lessons. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think for most people, especially if they're going through, there's emotional angst with the sale. It could be an estate sale, it could be a separation or a divorce. Maybe there's been a loss of a child or someone else. And I think we are in those moments meant to, just be there, love them, support them, and protect their best interest at that moment.
Mm.
So while they're vulnerable, we are their protector. We are working to, in the case of a sale, squeeze every cent out of that property. And usually that means some form of sweat equity. And it's not just, staging and cleaning and all of this stuff. It could be, digging in gardens, shoveling snow in our case in Ontario, just going that extra mile to make sure that you're helping them net the most amount of money.
Yeah. I often say that I'm a change agent for the agent, helping agents change, but also we are change agents for our clients and what we can do to help change their life in so many ways. And so if that's just doing, the task of getting a property ready, but I think there's so many other times that we actually help them outside of just the property sale too. I've got many experiences and stories, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, I think there's so many. Um, and I do see this business, like I see this almost like this is my ministry, right?
Mhm.
So, leading 55 realtors, taking on a lot of new agents, which a lot of other, teams don't like to take on, but being able to bring them on and help grow them through the program into becoming successful realtors, I think, supporting them emotionally, you're seeing those changes. Like, yes, I see it with clients. For me, the focus has been more on the actual realtors because I'm not out selling as much myself. So it's more the magic of watching an agent that comes in that may be struggling through a personal relationship. Maybe they're struggling with self-esteem and self-worth, and then seeing them really blossom and come into themselves. I can think of quite a few examples,
Mhm.
and change their lives. Like, we have so many agents that have come on and bought investment properties, and that's provided somewhere great for someone else to live. And they're leading by example and then mentoring other realtors to do the same thing. So I just think it's super cool. So what's your
Wow.
story? You must have something that's outstanding in your mind.
Well, I was just going to say what a powerful why that is. We're here to obviously help people buy and sell real estate, but then we get into a leadership position like you or I, and we start to lead agents so they can lead their clients, and it's a wonderful progression. It's a wonderful way of you called it a ministry, and I totally get that because I feel that I'm in the same position where changing people's lives. And the last thing that I want to have happen is somebody comes to my office and they're not a changed person. First and foremost, I want them to come in and they leave a better person and a better agent, of course, because many agents come and then they, of course, graduate and they move on to do their own business or a version of your business because they learned so much from you or I. So I'm sure you're seeing much of that in your work as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's for me where I get the biggest reward, truly, is watching, and we do have agents that are literally, they've been 3 years to get to that point of developing that self-confidence where, a lot of other teams, and I fully respect that, but it's basically you do this or ka-chunk, right? You do two deals or goodbye. Um, I see it more as we're all on our own personal journey at our own pace, and we're there to love people, hold them accountable. Like, part of that loving is holding them accountable to what they've agreed to achieve for themselves, to serve their families, to serve their community. And you work towards that, but it's not like a straight line. It's more like this. This is the success level, right? And then eventually they get there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. You need to have standards, but you also need to have grace and give people some freedom to find their way. And
Yes.
it sometimes takes months, even years sometimes for people to
Years.
find that lane that just fits them so well. Totally agree with that. What's the greatest gift that you think you have that helps the agent succeed? Is there a gift that you think, man, because of this gift, I can really help people? And I think I know that gift, but I want you to share that with me.
So for me, I actually have come to realize that my ultimate gifting is in seeing someone's like almost like God-given ability to do something, right? So I'll give you an example. So we were doing a lot of treatment foster care. So, you know, a lot of complicated children have had a lot of trauma in their lives. And we brought one child in particular, I can think of, a teenager into the house. And I had said to her, you know, did you ever consider singing or guitar? Okay. Now, I do neither. Okay. This was not something that I was thinking of, you know, coming from myself. This was literally something planted in me. And I felt like this was a talent she had. So she said, yeah, you know what? I had thought of that. And I ended up taking her for, you know, guitar lessons. And within a couple of weeks, she was singer-songwriter. She's now singing in Toronto. She's been very successful in that arena. And the same thing with agents. I can look at them and say, your gifting is here. This is your superpower. You know, I'll say to someone, oh, okay, it's so great. You should really go do this now, right? Like within the industry, within this role. So I feel like that's my superpower. What would you say is your superpower?
I think one of my superpowers is resilience, but I knew your superpower. I knew I was going to share that you've got a sensitivity about you that you can sense, see, and where people's gifts are, and then you encourage them in those gifted areas that they sometimes don't even see. And I've seen that in action. I've seen you in action doing this. So
Thank you.
amazing
Thank you,
stuff.
Wendy.
Really, really love that. When you give somebody their gift, you say, this is your gift. Did you know that this is your gift? Go and foster it. Go and let it work. And there's doubt. What happens when you see the doubt in their minds? Because doubt is one of those things that comes to each and every one of us. We doubt things. How do you encourage them to move past that doubt?
It's really just reminding them of another time where they thought they couldn't do something. Like, so getting them to go back and saying, hey, did you ever have a time where you know, maybe you were going to try something new and you weren't sure if you were going to be able to do it, but you worked through it and did it anyway,
Mhm.
right? And then they'll, you know, they'll say, well, yes, right. Well, this is one of those times. So it's like, okay, we need to get out there and do it. So what by when? So I'll help hold them accountable to, like, they're going to make a commitment to do something. But you find, like, when I get that, it's intuitive. So they kind of feel it, and there isn't truly much encouragement usually that's needed, because I feel like they kind of already know it deep down. They just haven't really dug in yet because they didn't have the confidence, right? As of yet. And I feel like as soon as you say it, they go, right, I kind of had a feeling about that. Or yeah, I sort of knew that, right? It's kind of rare when you can pull it out and they had no idea. So I feel like most people, they know.
They know they just need a little bit of encouragement often.
Yeah. And to have that support, sometimes it takes someone else believing in you, you know, so much that they actually can hold you up at the beginning because their belief is so strong in your ability, right?
Yeah.
And that is truly the way that I feel when I see it in someone. That is how I feel. I feel like I could do it for both of us. So like I'm so excited, right?
Yeah. And that is just such a great gift that you have. Now, often there's a saying that we are we are built to help the people that we understand and we know and we've been there. And so, you know, you've probably had some life lessons along the way that have helped bring out that sensitivity, that understanding that have brought you to
Mm-hmm.
this point where you can help people. Is there a moment, a time that you go, you know, that was the moment that I realized that I'm a leader and that I have this gift that I need to help others with?
So I don't know that those two moments would be the same,
Mm,
right? I feel like the things that I've been through when I've gone through them in the moment, it's reflecting later and saying, oh wow, I needed that experience, or there's no way I could have possibly had like the empathy or the understanding of the situation. I think an example would be, you know, being with a partner at 21 who is a cop, a police officer, who then, based on his own trauma from his childhood, which I had no idea about, he, after drinking, decided to try to kill me with a gun, and shot the house up. Yeah.
Whoa.
So we had, I brought his mom up. She wanted to come up to the house and come and see the horses that I had at this boarding stable. So it had brought her up, and he was not in support of that. So when I came home that night, he'd been drinking, and yeah, I had to call the police on the police. So
Wow.
what was an interesting experience about that, because that was the first case in Ontario where there'd been domestic violence, and they, once you'd signed basically a statement saying there'd been domestic violence, you were being forced to testify, which had never been the case before. So when he started, becoming very aggressive after, now realizing he's in a lot of trouble, forensics has pulled bullets out of the wall, all of that stuff, he became even more dangerous, right? So I wanted to leave the country, and that was my intention. I found a job to set up a riding school down in Jamaica, and I had a friend of mine call, and he says, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm going to leave, right? This is too dangerous. I'm going to drive the border to Buffalo. I'm going to catch a flight, and I'm going to go down and work there for, at least a couple of months until I figure out what I'm doing." And right after I hung up the phone, I actually had, it was the investigator and from Professional Police Services. And he said, "So I understand you're planning on leaving the country. We wanted to let you know if you did that, you'd be extradited." So this was pretty serious stuff, like, a police officer attempting to kill his partner. So what I learned from that was the empathy, Randy, right? Like that sensitivity to anyone going through any kind of domestic violence, right? And I didn't come from that background. That was a crazy thing. I think for me, it was always a belief that you could heal someone and help them, right? And that's not necessarily the case, right? That we can do that without getting hurt ourselves. So I've dealt with a lot of situations in real estate where there's been one partner or another that has been violent, like where jail's been involved, there's been shootings, I know it sounds crazy, but literally those experiences were put in my lap because I wasn't afraid, right? I knew how to deal with them and how to kind of manage everyone to keep the peace, to keep the children safe, to keep the deal moving along, to get it closed so they could both, move forward. So I think that's so important. And even with so many agents, there's so many people suffering in silence. And I've been, those people have been brought to me, I believe, as a way of me helping them through those experiences and changing their lives. And I have accomplished that with a number of different realtors that we've had, where they've been able to improve their lives and move away from those partnerships, right? So again, like not in the moment going through it, I'm a mess, right? That's 21 years old. Like you just don't, I didn't come from that. That's not what I expected. But
Wow.
to be, to move forward in life and realize, wow, I went through that experience because there's no way that I could deal with this. There's no way I could deal with this. There's no way I can manage these, realtors going through domestic violence. So yeah, that I would say that's probably, it's one that comes to mind. But it does feel like
mine. Yes, very
but
vague.
it feels like a lifetime ago. Like,
Wow.
don't you look back at things that happened, like that's 30 years ago for me. So do you look back like 30 years ago and think, like, that wasn't even me? Like that's not the same person anymore.
Well, and that's a good point. First off, man, courageous, courageous. I just really have to say how courageous you are to have gone through that and then still here standing and the person that you are today. And thinking about that, if you could go back, if you could go back in time, would you change that? Now, knowing who you are, what's become of you, would you change it?
No. And it's interesting you say that. You know,
Hmm.
there's nothing. Someone asked that about something else, and I would never go back. I don't want to go through anything anymore. I'm done. I feel so great. Like I feel like now at this stage, I'm so much wiser and I feel so great. Like I had so much insecurity back then, it was not a great time. So I feel like no, I would never go back, and I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't gone through all those experiences, right? They help make us who we are, and we become resilient and empathetic and, wise and more loving. Like, I think all of that leads to where we are today. So, no. How about you? Would you go back?
No, I mean, I wouldn't change it. I totally agree with you. You know, these are all moments, crucible moments, things that shape us, form us, and make us who we are today, make us the person, help us understand relationships, how to cope, have resilience, and resilience is one of those superpowers I've talked about, and it's really in moments like that when things come at you today, and you have the resilience to know how to handle it and how to act swiftly and make the right decisions. And for me, resilience is really about trusting who you are today, who you are, your inner being, your outer being, and then coupling it with that you've got hope that you'll make it through it. And I think that you're a resilient person as well. I think that's one of your superpowers as well, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think ultimately, I always know it will all work out. It's funny
Mhm.
how that is, right? And something I've been working on is even, I've had those moments of like you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and it's like, oh my gosh, like there's some pressing thing in my mind.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, that's a really big problem, right? Like, wow, that's a problem. And then I have that moment of, hang on a sec. Okay, whoa, slow down, right? Because I wouldn't think that normally during the day. It only comes up at that time of night. And I think, well, the brain that created that problem is here right now. So the truth is that same brain that created the problem is not going to solve it. So so I've been able to like kind of observe my thoughts more and go, wow, okay, that's not going to work. And then just shut it down and go to more of like a meditative prayer state of asking like, please clear my mind and now show me what the solution is to this that I clearly cannot see, right? So I feel like it will always work out. There's always, as long as you don't quit and as long as you've learned from everything you go through, there's no way it cannot work out, right?
Absolutely. And just because there's a thought in our head does not mean it's true.
Right?
It does not mean it's true. And yet, most of us have a thought and we think, oh, it's true. And then what
Yes.
happens is we start stacking these negative thoughts, another negative thought, another negative thought. Pretty soon we've created this incredible, dumpster fire from nothing, from nothing.
It is a dumpster fire. And it's interesting. You look at it and you think, okay, so the truth is, like our brain's like a computer, and
Mm,
we literally have a program running.
yes.
So I've been spending a lot more time in observation of my thought and not getting into that. And I ask when I know I've just thought something and I think, is that true? Is that really true?
Right.
Right. And then as soon as you start going there, it's like, no, it's it's just a chemical, almost like a chemical reaction, right? And I had going back years ago when Keith and I first got together, so we've been together 14 years now. Um, at the beginning, I remember like I was in a pattern of I would want to be right, and
Mhm.
he was the same. Okay, we're both like a disc personality. We're both D's. Okay, high D's. So we would be in that kind of space. And when I got mad, I would go to the place of, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to him. And he was good at it. He could go like for long, like a week. Okay, I couldn't do that. So, but I realized one day it was like, hang on, what is that feeling I've got when I'm doing this? Right. And I had this moment, this epiphany of realizing when I'm mad and I feel like I'm right, like I'm justifying it, I get this feeling. It actually feels good. Right. And I had an epiphany of realizing it's almost like a chemical reaction that's happening and I'm addicted to it. Right. So once you realize that it's an addiction, you can actually start to make changes. And that's where I went, okay, I know what this feeling is. I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to feel this. Like if that's what it takes at first, I've got 15 minutes and I've got to get over it. So I started going to Keith and I would say to him, okay, you're on the clock. You got an hour. You have an hour to go feel that way. And then we need to come back and actually have a conversation about this. And
Wow.
I got it down to like almost instantly being able to move out of it. It took some months. And
Yeah.
then to a place of I rarely go there anymore, like unless I'm tired or worn down or, you know. So I
Wow.
feel like there's so much, life gets so much better when we spend that time in the reflection of like, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Like what is happening here? Right?
That is a relationship hack. Wow. That is awesome. Really, really appreciate that. You know, what came to my mind is in business, we often get this, oh my goodness, this is an opportunity, and the dopamine kicks in, and we think this is the greatest thing because we get all revved up, especially us D's. And I was with a mentor the other day, and I said, man, I got this really, really great opportunity, and it's so exciting. And he goes, but is it? And I go, well, of course it is. Well, you're just revved up on your own dopamine right now. That's what
Wow.
we do. We get hyped up. And we don't
Yes.
work through the process and we don't let it come down. We just keep driving, driving, driving. But that driving can lead, at least it's led me into places that I shouldn't go sometimes.
Me
So
too.
we have to really understand who we are and how we process, think, and how we then respond. And this was just a great example in relationships. Thank you for that. That was a great, great share.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so easy to apply to, working in real estate, right? I always say to agents, look, you can't go where the client goes. Like they're emotionally going like this.
Mhm.
Your job is to stay here. Same thing with the other agents. So if you're working with them and they're like all over the place or they're taking you up and down, you have to get to a place of like, come up here, observe, and what is it? Like, what is the end goal that we're working towards? And then let's think strategically about how to move it to that place, right? You listen, you empathize, you do all those things, but what is the end goal and how do we get them to where that is? It's a reminder even for the client. I feel like a lot of them walk away better after because you're teaching them also how to, like, sometimes that reminder of kind of calming down and being peaceful, remembering that everything has a reason, right? Taking them back to that place of we're not in control, right? But it's definitely important to be like, I would put the property up for sale and I would say, okay, so now your job is to walk around and say, I'm so grateful it's sold. I'm so grateful it's sold. You need to see it, feel it, right? Know it. And every time you start thinking anything else, you need to rein yourself back and go back to that again, right?
Mm.
I know it's
I
wild.
love that. That is a great pro tip. I'm going to use that. I've
Okay.
never done that before, so I'm going to now, before I walk out the door with a listing, now you're going to say that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Set positive intention.
Yes. Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to
Yeah.
a little bit of vision and leadership. Vision and leadership with Jennifer Jones. What's on your vision board, Jennifer?
So 5,000 in my organization, Randy. Um,
I like
um,
that.
so I see the leadership part of pouring into many, many people and impacting them in their own business. My personal love is people looking and building small teams. Like that's literally the people that are coming to me and have been over the past couple of months are these individuals, like very cool, interesting individuals who have desire to grow. And yeah, that's my passion. So that's the big vision board thing in terms of like, the work, the team that will
Let me jump in there a little bit. Let me jump in there.
Yeah.
I think this is amazing because I know there's a lot of team leads that are out there struggling, and they're not quite sure where to go, who to talk to, and I've been doing that myself a lot lately as
I
well. In
know.
Switzerland, I'm neutral. I can go and help you. I can look at your budget. I can look at your personnel, your people, and give you, non-biased advice. I've done this for X years. That's what you're doing. And I think
That's
it's just
right.
wonderful, wonderful. And so if
Yeah.
you're a team lead listening to this, and you think that Jennifer can help you in just sorting through some of that, because right now the market, it's challenging. What is your expense line looking? What is the number of sales happening? How are you being productive? What's your support staff look like? What are the wages, the salaries, all that? This is where Jennifer can really, really help you.
And I think it's in the processes and the systems too. So, I tell the story of starting out with my team, and we had a very successful year. It was my first year running team, and I lost 150,000. So we made, I think it was like 2.5 million, and I lost 150, right? We were not profitable. So I had tried to just, invent this myself. And what you realize is, why do that when there are those successful teams out there that are actually profitable? So what I did was I went and had my office manager who's licensed fly down to Austin, Texas, and she shadowed one of the largest teams that was actually successful. They'd had a prior bankruptcy, right? Those are the people you want to learn from. Absolutely. And so we ended up implementing a lot of their processes and systems, a lot of which we still use today, right? So it's very cool.
Wow. People that have been influencers in your personal life, in your business life, can you share anything about them and who are they?
So influential people, I would say it has been more books. More things I've been reading. Like I think, oh my gosh, hang on one sec. I'm gonna have to pause it just because of Mike. I gotta let him in. I gotta open the door.
Okay, no problem. Is that Mike?
Yeah, I took him to the dog park before, thinking the 45 minutes out at the park would just chill him right out because Keith's not here to like grab him. But nope, didn't work. So yeah, influential people. I would say, I think like watching someone like a high producer like Peggy Hill for me, a woman at the time she was doing, I think she was like 1,200 deals. I think she's around 2,000 right now. Just watching her, that's definitely helpful. I would say recently, probably the most impactful person would be Glenn Sanford for me, right? Just the way he looks at things differently. And by being really authentically Glenn, he's had a super high level of success. So he doesn't try to be someone else. He's very much Glenn. Yeah. And I think the other cool thing is that his vision is so big. So I asked him last September at EXPCon Canada, we were out back after I'd interviewed him, and I said to him, so Glenn, from 2009 to present, you've created like basically the world's largest real estate company of 90,000 realtors globally, right? So I said, so I've succeeded and have like this much success, right? so good. And then you created this since 2009, right? So I said to him, so you think differently. So what am I missing? How do I need to change my thinking to take the limitations off that I can't see, right? So he gave me a book to read, Power of the Subconscious Mind, as a suggestion. And he worked with me on goal setting. So he'd said, what are your commitments? What are your goals for 2024? And I said, well, it's actually not in production. It's more in the mentoring, attraction side. And he goes, great. So how many agents are you intending on attracting for 2024? And I said, well, 150. And he goes, does that scare you? I said, no. He said, what scares you? I said, 500. He goes, great. Now add a zero, 5,000, and now reverse engineer that, right? Because basically the idea is to be able to do that with 5,000, you have to take off your regular thinking. And I know you know this. This is very much Randy. So in order to go to 5,000, you have to come up with much bigger ways in order to do that, right? Yeah. So you've got to basically take the wheels off your thinking and come up with entirely new scenarios, which I've been working on. So he's got me moving to a different place in terms of my thought, which is, and because I turned my focus there, all of this activity has started to come in that arena, right? So beautiful. Yeah, I would say, he's such a great role model for everybody in this company and outside of the company who's in real estate, because I believe he's been perfectly okay being called, strange, or like all those things, like weird, right? They called him that before the greatness, right? So before he achieved success, he's like, that's a stupid idea. That's really weird. I remember speaking to Michael Bean, and I know you talked to him down in Cabo. So independent brokerage came over in September with he had 650 people in this brokerage. And I remember him telling the story of being back in 2009, or yeah, it was in 2009. He was at Inman. He's walking around kind of like a tech geek with his backpack on. So Mike's there with his backpack, and he runs into Glenn with his backpack, the other tech guy, and talks about this company he's going to start. And Michael's like, that sounds crazy, right? Like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And Mike tells a story about, where he is now comparatively to Glenn with his 90,000 realtors versus, the 650 he had. It's just a different level of thinking. So yeah. And what about you, Randy? Who would be your mentor?
I love that you say books are very influential, and we meet some great people, and I do have great people in my life that are mentors, but it's really books that kind of elevate it and take it to another level. So I mean, you're talking about doing some impossible goals, like absolutely impossible goals, which is 10x is easier than 2x. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Solomon's book, which talks about, you got to throw everything away because 2x you can do the same things and just do twice as much work or change it up a little bit and you'll do 2 times your goal. But 10x, you got to throw everything in the garbage and start over, which is beautiful. And I'm just in the middle of reading an amazing book called Shine, and Gino Wickman. So if anybody that knows real estate that's been around for a while, Floyd Wickman, this is his son, Gino. And Gino is an absolute genius. And he talks about how to really change everything. And in this book, Gino talks about, we're entrepreneurs and we're almost suicidal entrepreneurs, and we'll do anything to make it work. And along the way, he and his partner realized that they were just on a sabotage mission of killing themselves. And so they've reorganized their whole world, and it's really like a return on life for them versus a return on investment. a great, great read. But they talk about a 10-year goal. Like, how many of us have 10-year goals? I didn't. I always thought 1, 3, 5 was like my outer edge. He's now taught me how to think 10 years out. Think about that, 10 years.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think if you, the reason too that you want the 10-year goal is this. So, okay, I'll write this down. Basically, you're not going to get the gist of the whole thing, but can you see this line here?
I can see that, yeah.
Okay, so this is a bar graph. This is dopamine, right? And the bottom is time, right? Yeah. So Rennie Rodriguez, you can follow him. It's hashtag learn with Rennie, right? Mm-hmm. And he talks about how, you know, we always have like the thing we're reaching for, right? So it's like, this is the amazing, incredible lake house. It's my dream house that I've always wanted, right? Yes. This is the job, you know? So what happens is this. Dopamine in the brain rises, right? It's rising, it's rising, it's rising. Once you get the thing, the very instant you get the thing, the car, the job, the lake house, it goes straight back down, even below where it originally started, right? And then what happens? Then you start going to the next goal. So it's the next big shiny object. So the truth becomes your dopamine, and we're wired to work towards something. So that was what I was thinking was, you know what, the truth is we shouldn't have these, you know, like shiny object goals. Those are fine. Like, you know, those could be important too, but it's that bigger goal where when you hit the shiny object with the lake house or, you know, whatever it is, maybe you have a massive goal for a charity, right? Which Keith and I do. So maybe it's that, you know, you have these little dips, but they don't go down as far because you're working on this big, massive 10-year goal that keeps you still, you know, somewhat steady in your dopamine towards it. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Gino talks about your true self. See, most of us don't live in our true self. We live in our egotistical self. Yes. And he breaks it down to, you know, the real being of who you are and the real core of who you are. And I just thought it was really wonderful. So really recommend that book, Shine, by Gino.
And how do you find that? Like, I think that's tough for people, right? Like you say, like, you know, you're true, like you're authentic, be real you. But how would you advise people to go and figure out who that is? Because it's not easy.
That is not easy, no. That process of finding your true self is surrendering to a lot of who you are. And that's hard to do, surrender. Giving up on what I think you feel is who you are. Like, so much of who we are is just things that we've obtained or that we've risen to, a title.
I love that.
Production, and it really takes away from the core. And I think, I mean, if we think about confidence and how confidence is, you know, there's the bravado confidence or the bravado ego, and that is very shallow, very easy to knock out of somebody. You know, if it's just bravado, first tough test, you know, they're on the floor and they're not really that confident anymore. But then there's all those other things, all those acknowledgments that we've done, all the awards that we've won, or the things that we're good at. Maybe I'm good at cooking. Maybe I'm really good at starting up conversations or communicating or whatever. And all of those things start giving us this sense of confidence. And it's almost like a matrix. Like if we can imagine a box with all these things in. But here's the problem. If one or two of those things get really, really big, and I'll use myself as an example. I get really good at real estate. My confidence, my ego soars because I'm the best in the marketplace or whatever it may be. But if that pops, if something happens, does that just take away everything of my being? All of my confidence, all of my, you know, it could. So we have to find the core. We have to say, you know, those things only are things of this earth, but are they really the core of who I am? And that is where we need to find our true self, is in the core and what makes us. And Gino had this great piece, this test. I'm going to try and remember here. If Are you the same person? I think this is how it went. Are you the same person if you met somebody from your high school that you haven't seen in years and years and years, and then there's your wannabe person, or the person that you idolize in your world standing next to you? Would you act the same to both of those people?
Yeah, that's
And,
such a great
and if you
test,
can't,
right?
then you're not your true self.
Yeah. And that is so powerful. It's so powerful. That's such a great way to test yourself. I love that. And I've been listening a lot lately. I don't know if you've heard about the book Worthy, Jamie Kern Lima, I believe, or
Mm,
Jamie Lima Kern.
yes.
And she's, yeah, CEO for L'Oreal, but was a Denny's waitress, sold her company or makeup company for 1.1 billion. But she talks about how, you know, after selling that company, and we can go back prior to that, where she's sitting with, I believe it was a L'Oreal or one of those people at a boardroom table. And she, they were supposed to be investing. And she's sitting with her husband at this boardroom table. And he looks across at her and says, this executive, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to move forward. And she says, well, why not? I'm sorry, would you please explain? And he said, do you want me to be honest with you? She says, yes. And he says, it's because we don't believe women would buy makeup from someone that looks like you, right? Meaning she was, not as slim as the other women from their perspective, that she's a different type of person. So she goes on to sell the company for 1.1 billion. And she talks about how, everything that she built was self-esteem. It's skills that build self-esteem. It's like, but the foundation wasn't there, which was being worthy, feeling worthy, and understanding that we're worthy and we're important and we're perfect just as we are, before you know, all the framing goes up and all these rooms are built on top. And you're talking about in being, the rooms in the matrix, right? Or the building in the matrix. I think that's important too, is understanding we're worthy just as we are. And because of the way that we're, brought up as children and told, you're no good, and, that's not good enough. And you're trying to meet these expectations all the time for other people. I think we lose sight of that. And it's returning to that, exactly what you're saying, like just getting to a place of truly feeling worthy, which gives you the ability to actually be authentic and truly be who you are. But I'm going to use that test. I'm going to use
So
that
well
test
said.
that you talked about. That's amazing.
That is an awesome test. So well said. So well said. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go
Sure.
to real estate in general and just how things are going right now. So, navigating the shift. There's a bit of a shift
Mm-hmm.
that's been happening for the last, 18 months or so. How are you helping your team with navigating the shift?
Mm-hmm. So one would be more skills, right? So we worked a lot on, okay, you need to learn and get certified if you haven't been already in rent to own, right? You need to understand how to get people into the market that are being challenged. Um, we moved into, like, just in general, a lot more doubling down on skill practicing in general, script and role play, all of those things. I think one of the big ones too is knowing your numbers. So our inside sales managing partner, Courtney Carroll, she is an Excel spreadsheet monster, and she knows her stats. She knows the stats for her team on dialing. So she said basically at the point, I think where we hit February 2022, just as the market was correcting, we were at 180 dials to one deal basically. And we discovered that over the course of the next, year, it moved up to almost double that. So we just looked at it and said, it's okay, guys, it's all good. Just understand it's all numbers. So Whereas before you could do 180 dials or 100 doors, you need to double down. If you want to do the same production or more, you need to double down, right? And then the third piece, which I still believe is the largest piece, is working on mindset. So we really, go back to remember what you're believing, what you're speaking over your world right now is literally what you're creating, right? So if you believe that all the buyers are sitting off to the sidelines and sellers don't want to sell and things don't sell and things are so hard, guess what? That's going to be your exact experience. Now, there's a percentage of people that can, as they gain more skills in their mindset and really monitoring, what they're speaking and believing about things, they were actually able to increase their sales over last year on our team and push up over 300. So we have about 4 of those that went, higher in GCI per year and actually accomplished more. So, and Courtney was one of those, of course. So I feel like, the mindset portion has been critical, but also knowing the numbers, right? Doubling down, and then also introducing more skills and practicing skills at a higher level, right? Mm-hmm. So, not taking things for granted. It's been more competitive because the inventory's been lower. So how are you going to show up, right? You better show up with your absolute best freaking game. It's going to be your best game. That's how we're going to do it. Yeah.
Well, and that success, it needs to be sustainable. So, there's habits and routines. And when the business is easier, those habits and routines get a little bit soft. And so it's now about skilling up, as you're saying, and getting back into the trenches and doing what needs to be done. Do you notice that? Because I'm going to say this, habits that happen at the office also happen at home. Your personal life, your business life. So when you're soft at home, you become soft at the office, or vice versa too. Have you seen how people have skilled up, or is that hard for people to do in this market right now? Are they making them both work? Are they struggling with that?
So as soon as COVID hit, and you go back to 2020, we were doing all in-person meetings. So we quickly pivoted to Zoom like everyone else, but we decided everyone should meet every single day. So we started, because people, have to deal with kids, we did 9 o'clock start. So 9 to 9:30, we did a Monday to Friday morning meeting. So Monday we did statistics. So let's talk about what's being listed, what's being sold in all the areas we service, highest price sale, lowest price sale. Tuesday, Thursday, we did script and role play. Wednesday was like a self-accountability. And Fridays, we did some specific training. It might be a lawyer talking about something, mold specialist, whatever. It's always like planners, septic and well people. So always a skill set training. Then we did a live dial, 9:30 to 10:30 on Zoom. So you could take your client list or be given lists to call, like paid lead calling lists, and then they would hammer through those calls. We also did, calling around the neighborhood, asking if people needed help. So maybe they were older, maybe they couldn't get out to pick up, groceries, or couldn't get to a pharmacy. We were servicing the community in that way. Wow. So I feel like it's more about taking action in any market, right? And in that market, it was important to, again, the habits, the systems, the processes, the self-accountability, and you had to show up to the call. So I don't know what they were wearing in the bottoms, Randy, maybe underwear, I don't know. But on the top, everyone was like showered and, ready to go. Because the truth was we were all out. And so we feel like it's important still to do those things. And the more you work on yourself, so that's like the personal growth and development, which we focus on, and encouraging fitness and health, right? Yeah. You will have a higher level of financial success and success in all areas of life. So by having the discipline to get up and, maybe it's not going to the gym, maybe it's going for a walk, right? To get started. But at some point, if your health isn't right, if you don't have the discipline with what you're eating and you're struggling in other areas of your life, maybe you're drinking too much, maybe you're eating too much, maybe you're sleeping too much, maybe you're Netflixing too much or scrolling on social media too much, right? And the problem is that those those habits are pulling away from your success, and they're boosting your serotonin and your dopamine in those moments. So it's like it's giving you, you're getting something out of it because you don't feel great, but it's like short-term gain, right? It's only going to pay off in the short term, and in the long term it's going to hurt you. So
So true. Technology, it seems like such a big buzzword right now. AI, a big buzzword right now. How is that manifesting or changing in your business?
So with us, we love Carrie Sove, and she's the AI Tech Global Consultant for EXP. She does a training as well. Anyone is welcome, and that's on Fridays at 11 o'clock Standard Eastern Time. So we have the team attending that. We'd gone through and had a bunch of people sign up for her course and go through it. We just believe it's important that if you don't know how to prime Chat GPT, for instance, you're already behind. And it's not that hard to get caught up. But the important thing is that you get caught up with using it now, because even if you ask AI, where will realtors be in, another 5 to 10 years? Well, we're still going to be here, because you can't smell the condo, can you? AI can't smell it, right? AI can't determine if it had 7 cats in it, and that shouldn't have been in there without a litter box. Like, this is the challenge. AI can do so much, but when it comes to unique properties, as we see with House Sigma, Zillow, all of those, I mean, the evaluations are like far left wrong, right? So I feel like AI is so important to use, and it helps to kind of streamline your business. You're going to be able to leverage your time. It's efficient. It will cost you less money to be able to implement those things into your business. And there's also the reality. I'm sorry, people. It's also a belly to belly business. And you have to get in there with people and shake hands and hug and kiss babies, right? Like that. Really, you're not going to get to know people unless you get in there and do it. Now, for online lead generation, and we can go back to using Glenn as the example there. So Glenn Sanford, he originally, prior to starting EXP, had I think it's 7 teams, buyer's choice in the States, right? And he was one of the first people to use online lead generation, right? He was an introvert. He didn't want to go out with people. So he set up these 7 teams with all of these realtors out servicing. So I feel like he was already deeply immersed in that technology journey. And this is why we are doing so well with this company, is because we're way ahead with tech and we're way ahead with AI, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Technology just keeps plodding along, and you got to get on that wagon and make sure you understand it and use it. Well, let's finish up here. We're going to do a little bit of a speed round. It's been awesome, awesome, awesome. There's so many great nuggets you've been dropping. So speed round, fine dining, takeout, or home cooked meal. What do you choose?
Fine dining.
Fine dining. What do you do to let your hair down? You got nothing to do. You got a day off. What's Jennifer going to go and do?
It depends. Sometimes it would be Netflix. Um, yeah, we are known to Netflix. It would be taking Mike to the dog park, or if we're able, because we live in Ontario, boating. Yeah, we would be out on a boat. I think that's my biggest joy, is actually being on the water, in the water, near the water.
Love that. Water is so calming.
Right?
Yes. Favorite band?
Coldplay.
Coldplay. Okay. Do you prefer text, work chat, talk, or face-to-face?
It depends.
It depends. I like that. It depends.
Texting normally in like, for just quick back and forth in a busy day. And face-to-face sit downs with people belly to belly when they're highly resonating energies, right? Like yourself. So if they're positive people and want to improve their lives and they're digging in and they're curious and interested about life, I love to sit down with them. If they are struggling, what's the word we want to use? If they're struggling with themselves and they're negative, the glass is always half full, I struggle to spend time there. I feel like, yeah, my energy and time is better spent somewhere else, right? Because they're literally attracting what it is that they believe. So they'll tend to create negative experiences. And even for realtors listening, like, you go out to go meet with a client and they're bad mouthing every agent that listed their property before. They're negative. They believe that you're going to try to take advantage of them. Unfortunately, with some of those clients, it's not worth taking them because they are going to recreate that experience again, right? And it's amazing how when you take those ones, Randy, how things would go wrong, right? Like weird random things, like an agent leaves all the doors open and unlocked and walks away, or the key disappears. Like it's those ones that have the challenges, right?
So true. So true. Okay, Audible or book?
Book.
Book.
I like to touch the book.
I love that. I love taking notes inside the book as well.
Yeah, me
Last
too.
question, trick question. I don't think I've asked you this before, so this might be a trick question for you. If you were a scratch and sniff sticker, and I scratched your shoulder, what would I smell?
Why is it a trick?
I don't know.
A scratch and sniff sticker.
So who would so I come up to you and I scratch you and I go, yep, that's Jennifer.
Well, I would say you either smell chocolate, because that's my number one love that I don't eat as much of anymore. Or you smell.
I thought you might want to say that you've got a little bit of a saddle, horse barn.
Actually, I haven't been like, it's funny. I remember someone saying to me, I sold a horse to someone years ago in my 20s. And I remember he was a lawyer and his brothers had all died. He had a heart condition, and because it was an aneurysm and he wasn't sure when he was going to pass, he just knew it was going to be sudden. They couldn't do anything surgically. And I remember him saying to me, what if you woke up one day and you no longer had passion for horses the way you do? Like I had 18 in my barn at that point, right? Like it was a big deal. And I remember saying to him, that would never happen, right? And I love horses, but I don't have the passion for them that I had, which is fascinating, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So no, so I wouldn't smell like a horse anymore. I might smell like Mike the dog because he's amazing, right, Michael?
He is. Let's see Mike. Let's see Mike. Hey, Mike. He's so beautiful. Hi, Mike.
It can be difficult to see him because he's so dark.
He's so dark, yes. Awesome.
He's a good boy.
Well, this has been an amazing podcast. We've had Mike, Jennifer, on our podcast here, Return on Life, and that is a return on life image right there. Awesome. Thanks for being a great guest, Jennifer.
Thank you, Randy. It's such a pleasure. Always amazing to spend time with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Talk soon.